warm good morning to all. The Faculty of Law, SRM University, Sonepat, extends a warm welcome to all of you to the third day of the 5-day Faculty Development Program on contemporary issues and changing facets of law. Our resource person for the day is Professor Dr. Rajesh Gill, Professor, Department of Sociology, Punjab University, Chandigarh. She is also a visiting faculty at the Indian Institute of Advanced Study, Shimla, Center for the Study of Social Systems, Jawaharlal Nehru University, New Delhi, Department of Sociology, University of Bombay, Mumbai. She has over 34 years of teaching experience and was a gold medalist in her master's and MPhil in sociology. She holds several administrative and academic positions, including Fellow, Punjab University Senate, Member, Gender Sensitization Committee Against Sexual Harassment, Punjab and Haryana High Court, Member, High Court Legal Services Committee, Mentor, Community Mentorship Program, District Child Protection Unit and Child Welfare Committee, UT Chandigarh, etc. She has published over 100 research articles on themes such as urban poverty, gender empowerment, local governance, etc., and has organized over 20 conferences, especially covering the areas of gender and patriarchy. Her research project on cultural fixation on honor, a gender audit of Punjab and Haryana awarded by the UGC, was published in 2019. She would speak to us on the topic Rise of Feminist Jurisprudence and its implications in contemporary India. The nexus between law and feminism has been evolving for over a century. The question whether law can be a tool to aid a feminist shift in society has been a subject matter of public discourse in numerous instances over different periods of time, including the abolition of sati and raising of age of consent in British India, and the recent issues on triple talaq, Sabrimala, etc. How far law can be a viable tool for emancipation of women is a controversial subject. Also, the Indian take on feminism is founded on considerations other than those that drove the development of feminism in the West. Our concerns are contextualized in other vectors like caste, Indian familial structure, developing economy, etc. In this context, Indian feminism is a necessary ingredient in our discussions on law and society. With this, I request you, ma'am, to kindly take over the session.
Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be amongst you. Thank you for a very generous introduction. Thank you, Komalji.
Thank you. Deep gratitude to you, in fact, for taking out.
No, it's not that, it's always a pleasure and a learning experience to interact with young participants. The problem is that in Chandigarh, we are having a power cut for the last 2 days because the power...
Yes, I saw it in my group, where they had mentioned.
Luckily we had electricity in some sectors. Today it's in none. So I got my laptop charged and managed everything so that I don't, create a problem for you today.
Thank you so much for this extra effort you have made today.
I'm glad that I could make it, and thank you very much for this. Rightly said, I'm a student of sociology primarily. I have been teaching sociology for the last more than 34 years. Although midway, I also did my bachelor's in law in 2010-13. And I thoroughly enjoyed studying law. And I sincerely felt after completing my degree that you can't do sociology without law. These two are so intricately related. We all know that legal provisions, legislations, laws are very specific to a particular society. So if you have studied law in India and you want to settle down in Canada, except for certain theoretical papers, you'll have to study the law of that country because it grows out of custom, it grows out of the social context, and it keeps on changing accordingly. So as the society is changing, the laws are also changing. The problems which one particular society has, another society may not have, and vice versa. So therefore, that contextuality is very important. And during my degree, during the teaching of law, which I experienced on the other side of the bench, I also experienced that teaching of law is very important. How you teach law. teaching of law merely through bare act is not actually teaching of law. And normally, I also found the best teachers, which according to me were best teachers, were those who had the ability to connect the legal provisions with the ground realities. And the worst teachers were those who didn't have that ability and who only read out the bare acts and couldn't relate, because it is a dynamic process. So therefore, I wanted to make this in the backdrop, so that you take me not as an expert on law, because I'm not a teacher of law, but I'm a social scientist. And I feel that you cannot do, practice, teach, learn social science without law, and vice versa. You cannot also understand law without social science. And that is a major reason why in all 5-year law courses, you have social sciences and languages. Language is also very important, whether you are drafting a petition or you are writing an order, a judgment. The language is very important. With that, I come to the theme, which is the rise of feminist jurisprudence. You see, in law, we always had a feeling, especially I would like to go back to the Enlightenment period of 18th century, when sciences emerged, sciences of society. Initially, sciences, pure sciences had grown, you know, like physics, chemistry, mathematics was the first one, geometry, astronomy, and other natural sciences and medicinal sciences. And we could make such huge achievements in these sciences. Life expectancy increased. We could get a control over so many epidemics, which caused so many deaths in prior to this. And that was the period when we thought that science is everything. Science can cure everything. Scientific temper grew, and rationality grew, and individualization happened. It was that during that period that the whole process of individualization occurred, which means that the slogans of equality, liberty, fraternity taught us that what we are, what the society is, how we interact with one another, how we organize each other, ourselves, is not naturally ordained. It is socially determined, the social contract theory for that matter. That is, it is the human beings who have created society, so much so that we have a sociologist, namely Emile Durkheim, who also said that even religion is socially constructed. There's nothing spiritual about it. And people commit suicide. There's nothing psychological. There is nothing, physiological that causes it. It is also socially caused. So therefore, what I mean to say is that your social context, your culture, tradition, customs are so important that they overshadow the rationality. But at that time, it was being argued that science and scientific temper, rationality, reason, they are the God. So they had replaced God. They had replaced. So there was a opposition between sacred and secular. So we had abandoned the sacred and we have adopted the secular. And therefore, science was treated as an exercise which is rational, which is objective, with no space for subjectivity, subjective elements. Any subjectivity was to be discarded. Religion had no place, customs had no place, tradition had no place, individual subjectivity had no place. And it was firmly believed that science could give us all solutions. Now, I would like to place law here. This was the period which initiated modernization, that codified law, formal law evolved. Because before that, we had very informal systems of social control. Human beings were controlled by traditions. We have repressive law, as Durkheim has used the word, which means khoon ka badla khoon, aankh ka badla aankh, that kind of a repressive law. And also, there was no formal kind of system of law. And we sociologists also distinguish between deviance and crime. Deviance is when you deviate from social norms. So therefore, if the younger, we expect the sons to touch the feet of the father. So if a son does not do that, he is deviating from the social norm, but it cannot be punished by law. But if he violates the traffic lights, he can be punished for that, because there he is committing a crime. So there is a difference between deviance and crime. This is legal, crime is legally defined. So with this, the codified law emerged, the formal law emerged, and we believe that this kind of law is scientifically, constructed, is scientific, is objective. Law is for everybody. It is to be complied by everybody, and it covers all. So you can't say that this is not neutral. This is gender biased, or it is biased towards a particular religion or race or caste or ethnic group. No, law is law. Law is the most scientific instrument that human societies have evolved in order to control themselves. And it is an institutionalized way of controlling society. So this was questioned by feminists after a long time. Not only law, but I tell you, the whole social science has been questioned. The whole research methodology has been questioned. This is all man-made. The laws have been constructed by, symbolizing the societies as male. And it is true when you say that men include women. This was the notion that was believed in, that when we say human beings, it includes all. When we say men, and even today, I have seen women who call themselves feminists. When we also talk, we also very often use the word he, men, thinking that it includes women, because we have been brought up like that. Often I get letters from different universities and organizations where it is written, recently I held a viva for PhD, and there the examiner is supposed to be the chairperson. So they sent me the evaluation report, and it was written Rajesh Gill, chairman. So I have to cut it and write chairperson. We have not been able to, even today, we believe, and women, I'm talking of women, not also men. These are so at that time also, we thought that law is gender neutral, law is unbiased, it doesn't favor anybody, it is something which is very scientifically evolved. And the feminists, the women who speak on the behalf of women, who work for the welfare of women, and you think that there is a tangible difference between men and women, reasonable classification in legal terms. So it is biased. It is not gender neutral. Law has been made, constructed by men, and it has masculine language. And not only that, it is gender biased also. It treats women as the property of men, as victims, as dependents, as weak, as not as active members of society. So this is the basis of feminist jurisprudence, where in the study of law, they question the way the law has been studied so far. And not only the study of law, the very methodology is questioned. So they have come up with the feminist methodology for studying social sciences, for studying history. They say that you have studied freedom movement, only eulogizing male heroes. What about the female heroes? You never talk about them. So were they not women? Without the support of women, without the active participation of women, could these men, go and fight? Even world wars could not be fought if their women at home had not taken over the men's jobs. It was only then that men were freed to go and fight. So therefore, the feminists are questioning the practice of law, the study of law, and so on. This is the rise of feminist jurisprudence, which has occurred all over the globe, and hence it has huge implications also. The feminists believe, one major belief in feminist jurisprudence is that law has been pivotal in women's subordination. That if women have been subordinated in the society, law has played a very crucial role in this. And most of the laws are man-made and based on stereotypes, gender stereotypes. And I hope that we all know the meaning of gender stereotypes. Right from the birth, we are socialized on the basis of gender stereotypes. A girl, has to wear these colors. The male child doesn't wear pink and red, and the boy doesn't wear a frock. पंजाब हरियाणा में तो अगर लड़के को लड़की की ड्रेस पहना दो तो कहते हैं जी पता नहीं कितनी मन्नत मांग मांग के तो लड़का हुआ है और इसको लड़की बना दिया है तुमने. So therefore we, right from the beginning, it is only a child, it's only a physiological organism, and we change this organism into a man or a woman. So from sex we move to gender. From a male and female we transform it into a man and a woman. Right from dress, the toys which you give. एक लड़का अगर किचन यूटेंसिल्स के साथ खेलता है, खाना बना रहा हूँ, तो उसको समझा जाता है कि इसको गड़बड़ है, ये कुछ लड़के में गड़बड़ है, So therefore, and similarly, if a girl is playing with tractors and trucks, it is not. So therefore, gender stereotypes. And the feminists are saying that law is also been made based on gender stereotypes. It's not freed of that. And we will see how. And both the laws as well as the interpretation of laws is based on gender stereotyping. एक तो law होता है, provision होता है. अब IPC is 1860 document, and it has to be interpreted. Any law has to be interpreted. That is why different benches give different types of decisions, pronouncements. Laws are the same, but then bench hunting होती है. You say that this bench is woman friendly, this bench is male friendly, this bench is prone to this. So therefore bench hunting karte hain sare lawyers. It is because the interpretation is very important, how laws are interpreted. There was a time, for instance, when women had no property rights. We all know. Agar rights bhi the, to that was for life, inalienable rights. What was the basis for that? Because women are not supposed to own property. A woman is dependent before marriage on her father. After she goes to the husband's family, she is dependent on the husband, and husband is the provider. He has to protect. She has to be protected. And therefore, she need not, her primary job is to remain within four walls of the house. And now, how serious implications this has had, we all know, especially for poor women. In slums, for that matter, the poor woman who was managing the whole household, she could be kicked out by the husband anytime. क्योंकि जो पट्टा होता था वो सिर्फ husband के नाम पे होता था. So it was only after a long time कि पट्टा दोनों के नाम पे किया गया, land ownership. So that it is in joint names. She also has something in hand. Now this came up only after a lot of struggle by the feminists and women. It is a result of feminist jurisprudence. Women primarily have been considered as an appendage of man. If you interpret different laws, I will take first of all the laws concerning restitution of conjugal rights, because that is very close to my subject, and I find it very interesting. When I was studying family law, I was very amused to see the case laws and judgments and understand, how women's sexuality has been controlled formally. क्योंकि हमने sociology में informally तो पढ़ा था कि किस तरह से when a girl attains puberty, her father, her family controls the sexuality. She is not allowed to move out. Haryana mein abhi bhi we've done field work. Girls are not supposed to use mobile phones. Boys are supposed to. 6-year-old boy is also given a mobile phone and a bike and everything. But a girl is not supposed to, because she is a threat to the family. young girl. So her sexuality is controlled. Now, restitution of conjugal rights. There was a very interesting case. You all would be वैसे मुझे आपके साथ ये टॉक करते हुए डर भी लग रहा है, क्योंकि आप लोग सब एक्सपर्ट्स हो, टीचर्स हो, तो मैं तो लॉ की एक्सपर्ट नहीं हूँ, तो आप थोड़ा मुझे लीनियंटली लीजिएगा. So I find this case very interesting, तीरथ कौर versus कृपाल सिंह, where 1962 पंजाब का जो केस है, कि जिसमें the woman, it was the man husband who was not able to sustain the household financially. So he forced the woman कि तुम कुछ, उसने ट्रेनिंग ली, टेलरिंग की ट्रेनिंग ली, एंड देन शी गॉट अ जॉब. पहले तो ट्रेनिंग लेने के लिए शी हैड टू स्टे विद हर पेरेंटल फैमिली, तो वो हस्बैंड से अवे अपने पेरेंट्स के साथ रही, फादर के साथ रही. दैट वाज ओके. उसके बाद उसको जब काम करना था, शी गॉट अ जॉब नियर पेरेंट्स हाउस. And when she started working, then after some time, the husband says that, no, it can't be. You have obligations towards me. You are my wife. You have to satisfy me sexually and otherwise. So leave your job and come back. She refused. She says, no, I can't leave the job. So you can come off and on. And that, he filed a case for restitution of conjugal rights on the basis that she has withdrawn from the company of the husband without any reasonable cause. And this case went to the court, और उसमें सारे facts थे कि it was not that she had withdrawn. She was going to him, he was coming to her, and जैसे आजकल होता है, आजकल तो बड़ा नॉर्मल है कि कपल्स हर हफ्ते एक दूसरे को मिलते हैं, वीकेंड पे, अगर दूर हैं तो 1 महीने में मिलते हैं, 6 महीने में मिलते हैं, इट्स वेरी कॉमन. तो क्या उसको विड्रॉल कहेंगे कि नहीं कहेंगे? सो दैट टाइम द फैक्ट्स वर वेरी क्लियर, बट it was held that it is, according to the Hindu Marriage Act, it is the duty of the wife to live under the roof and protection of husband, right? And it is her primary duty to fulfill the desires to have sexual relations with husband, satisfy him. And now the question was, has the wife withdrawn from his company for a reasonable cause? In this case, it was held that there was no reasonable cause. So working, being independent, is not a reasonable cause. Now, when it was ordered that she must leave the job and join her husband. If you compare this, put it in the context of Domestic Violence Act of 2005, in which economic violence is defined. Economic violence, where it is considered a basic human right of a woman to be self-reliant financially. And, when you're looking for a wife, when you're looking for a matrimonial partner, you say that I want an educated and working girl, because we cannot sustain. You cannot really sustain. So therefore, once she comes, one single day, suddenly, for any reason, you tell the woman that, okay, enough is enough. Now I can manage. मैं मर्द हूँ, मैं संभाल सकता हूँ, तुम्हें जरूरत नहीं है काम करने की. So from tomorrow you are not moving out of the house. Leave your job. And according to Domestic Violence Act, this is economic abuse. So this is violence. And you cannot do that, because it is the wife's right. It is the woman's right to be financially self-dependent. This is the rise of feminist jurisprudence. We've come a long way. There are so many judgments, case laws, where you find a sea change. आप 60s, 70s की जजमेंट देखिए और फिर 2000s में आ जाइए, and you pick up any such theme and you will find a sea change in this. So if you look at Domestic Violence Act, then there are so many things which are different. For instance, the woman who has a live-in relationship, she has been given protection. Not that live-in relationship has been legalized, but then these are the women who were being kicked out. We did field work in Haryana, in various areas, where we found a large number of purchased women who had been purchased as and kept at home, seemingly as wives, because you needed a woman to take care of the house, to clean, to cook, to produce your children. And these are the women who have spent their life there. And a large number of women there is no legal marriage. You can't consider them wives. There is no legal marriage. They have no legal rights over property, over house, over anything, right? And you know the implications. They can be kicked out anytime. And what is the option for women? Let her go to court. How many of these poor women can think of going to court and proving that, yes, I stayed with him for such a long time and I am his wife, and so on and so forth. When we were doing this fieldwork there, our team went to a house where a Nepali woman was there, around 70 years. She had produced children, children had grown up. When our team was coming back after taking the interviews, the husband says, "Isko bhi le jao, ab hame iski kya zarurat hai?" So therefore, she has no legal status. She has no legal standing. Now, this is a big issue which still has not been catered to. It's a legal issue. Next, when we come to the women's reproductive rights, we are talking so much about women's reproductive rights. That women don't have right over their own bodies. They can't, a woman cannot decide when she is to marry. अगर हरियाणा में पंचायत की इलेक्शंस में वो कहते हैं जी कि मैट्रिकुलेशन चाहिए मिनिमम या ग्रेजुएशन चाहिए, लड़के नहीं है पढ़े लिखे, तो फटाफट डॉटर्स इन लॉ को लाया जाता है शादियां करके, तो इलेक्शन से पहले. दिस हैपेंड इन लास्ट पंचायत इलेक्शंस. सो यू ब्रिंग एजुकेटेड डॉटर्स इन लॉ और नो डाउरी, नथिंग, वी डोंट वांट एनीथिंग, यू जस्ट कंटेस्ट द इलेक्शन. एंड इन अ नंबर ऑफ केसेस जब वो इलेक्शन में हार गई, they were thrashed and they were maltreated. They were asked to go back कि ना कोई लेके आई, ना कोई डाउरी लेके आई, और फिर इलेक्शन भी हार गई, हमारा भी पैसा लगवा दिया. So therefore, this is how we play with women's reproductive systems. A woman has no right to decide whom to marry. Woman has no right to decide how many children, when to have a child, how many children she should have. I was talking to a gynecologist in a government hospital, and she told me a story that an aged woman and her daughter-in-law came. The daughter-in-law was hardly 18, 19 years. She already had a child and she was pregnant. The child was hardly not even a year. And she was very, very anemic and very weak. So the doctor said, I told her that why don't you use something? And why are you pregnant again? She did not. She kept mum. As they went out, the girl came back and she told the doctor कि ये जो मेरी सांस है ना, ये हमारे कमरे की तलाशी लेती है और कोई भी कॉन्ट्रासेप्टिव्स होते हैं, कुछ भी होते हैं, निकाल के ले जाती है. She doesn't allow us to use any contraceptives. This is the ground reality. And we have huge money being spent on health programs, reproductive schemes, Janani Suraksha Yojana and whatnot. But we need to peep into the realities, the ground realities, how people behave, how people indulge into sexual relations and reproductive processes. So coming to Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act then, the amendment 2021 is very significant because the time, the period has been increased. Initially, the termination was allowed from after up to 12 weeks of pregnancy. Now it is 20. One medical practitioner, and you don't need husband's consent for that, right? But one registered medical practitioner must certify, and then 24 weeks, up to 24 weeks, 2 medical practitioners must certify, and it can be done only if there is a risk to the mother of the child. But still, a woman cannot get her child aborted on demand. And the very fact that you have to go to 2 medical registered practitioners and in rural areas, in most of the areas, we all know the plight of the health infrastructure and how difficult it is for the women to avail this. So practically, it's a big question. There is also a very important question, which is legal as well as moral, regarding the reproductive rights of mentally challenged women. I remember here in Chandigarh a few years back, there was a shelter home in which a young girl who was mentally challenged, she was raped by somebody. She didn't know. Now also a case has happened 2-3 days back. It was reported. A mentally challenged girl, and she was pregnant. And the case went to the court, and the court couldn't decide whether the child has a right to live or the mother has, this is a moral question, this is a legal question. We still don't have answers to this. So the girl was, made to continue with the pregnancy, and she delivered a child. She didn't know who the father is, and she was not aware of her own, what was happening to her own body. So these are the questions. Then we also have the very controversial law on adultery, 497 IPC, in which the famous case of Joseph Shine versus Union of India, 2018, in which a PIL was filed under Article 32, challenging the constitutional validity of adultery. And it was claimed that it was violative of Articles 14, 15, and 21. We all know that there's husband-wife and there is husband-wife, and one husband indulges into extramarital relations with another's wife. Only the husband has the right to sue the man. So the wife doesn't have any right. She cannot do anything. And the woman who was adulterous, she is not treated as an abutter. So it has been treated as a law which treats women as property of men. Both the women are not, they don't have an equal status as man. And this is time that this has been considered, this has been held as violative of the Article 14 and unconstitutional. Amendments happen, laws change. The teachers of law would know, the students of law would know, most of the practitioners also don't know. I have yet to meet advocates who are well-read. And think of the general people at the ground reality. I tell you, I had been teaching sociology, and we always taught students that child marriage is prohibited under law. You can't have child marriage. Till I studied Hindu Marriage Act in family law. And I found that child marriage is voidable. It's not void. After attaining the age of 18, the girl can opt out of it. Can we imagine the girls who are married off at the age of 10, 12, 13, by the age of 18, they are aged. They have no blood. They have no, and we expect that they know this law and they have the, capacity to walk out of the marriage. So therefore, I always would like you to talk of law in social context. What value, what relevance a law has here. I was very, very impressed by the way this triple talaq was handled. And we could, such a dialogue could happen in 2017 when this case of Shaira Bano versus Union of India and others came up. And she challenged that the husband says talaq, 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 and there is a witness, he produces a witness also, or talaq ho gaya. So the court held that no, this is violative of Article 14 and there is no reasonable cause and no effort was made for reconciliation. Now, it is very difficult to handle a law which is outside the purview of Hindu law. The custom comes in, customary law comes in. We don't have only one monolithic category of, formal law. So, but the law has been made. There's a lot of controversy. There's a lot of criticism that it is anti-men and it has to be addressed. There have to be discussions on such laws because so long, it is not easy to change the mindset which is so deep-seated just with one stroke, that you change a law and you think the reality will change. We have not been able to eradicate dowry. 1961, Dowry Prohibition Act. Taking and giving of dowry is an offense. Khatam ho gayi dowry. Look at the kind of dowry that is now in place. पहले तो थोड़े से बर्तन दे दिए, स्टील के, पीतल के, थोड़े से कपड़े दे दिए, बिस्तर दे दिए, एक सोफा दे दिया, एक बेड दे दिया, तो डाउरी हो गई, बहुत अच्छी थी. एंड टुडे वेडिंग तक पहुंचते पहुंचते जान निकल जाती है फैमिली की. So a daughter has become a much bigger liability than she was in 1960s and 50s. Why would somebody have a daughter? So therefore, merely having law is nothing. Women have also, how law has been interpreted has made serious implications on Indian society in terms of employment of women also. And we all know about the air hostesses case, which is a very famous case. We all study this case, and I find it very interesting that अब कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन तो पहले बन गया, राइट? इक्वालिटी, राइट टू इक्वालिटी दे दिया आपने जेंडर के बेस पे आर्टिकल 14 में. आर्टिकल 15 में आपने कहा डिस्क्रिमिनेट नहीं करेंगे, नोबडी कैन डिस्क्रिमिनेट ऑल्सो, इट्स एन ऑफेंस. लेकिन 1980s तक जब ये केस आता है, तो जो एयर इंडिया, इंडियन एयरलाइंस के सर्विस लॉज हैं वो इतने जेंडर बाइस्ड दैट the retirement age for a man in the same nature of work is 58, and for the woman it is 35. Or if she gets married within 4 years of her employment, or if she gets pregnant within 4 years of employment, she'll be retired. And what is the logic? Because a woman must be, an air hostess must be glamorous, young, beautiful. And once she gets married, she loses glamour and beauty and youth. Once she gets pregnant, she loses everything, while a man does not. And so these women had to go to court. And the court said that, yes, this is unconstitutional. This violates Article 14 and 15. So still, what is problematic is that if you scratch, you may find a number of service rules, a number of laws still existing, which are gender biased, but where nobody has gone to court, nobody has challenged them. Even when you have equality, I'll share with you one example. I was in a selection committee for the selection of an assistant professor in sociology about 10 years back. It was a very prestigious institution. And there's a managing committee representatives, and there are 3 experts and DPI nominee and so on and so forth. Then one after the other, the candidates come, and then a girl comes who is very good. One of the other candidates are coming and they're very bad. And then one girl comes whose performance is very good. So everybody says, she's the best. And after that, after some time, the interviews are over and the decision has to be made. Now, when the decision has to be made, वहाँ पे slips exchange हो रही हैं, glances exchange हो रही हैं, and then nobody talks about that girl. So I said, you were all very appreciative of that girl. Now what happened? तो मैडम ऐसा है ना कि इस लड़की की अभी अभी शादी हुई है, फिर ये मैटरनिटी लीव पे जाएगी, फिर ये चाइल्ड केयर लीव लेगी, तो वी नीड अ मेल टीचर हु कैन रियली वर्क. अब ये जेंडर स्टीरियोटाइप है that women don't work, men work. Women want छुट्टीज all the time, men don't. And it's not that men have this stereotype, more of the women have this stereotype. They themselves say that I'm the best. There can be nobody as efficient as Rajesh Gill, but all other women are ineffective, inefficient. So this is the problem. And I put my foot down. I said, I'm not going to sign the proceedings. You can't discriminate like this because she's a woman. And there were women also sitting in the selection committee. Now, what I'm trying to make out is who bothers about laws? And this is the most prestigious so-called intellectual class of people who are teachers. This is how we discriminate. This is how we, So therefore, in this case, in another case where the Secretary of Ministry of Defense versus Babita Punia, 2020, where the army officers, army officers, SSC officers, the case was filed, a writ petition was filed in the form of a PIL in Delhi High Court for grant of permanent commission to women officers in the army. पहले क्या होता था कि उनको 5 साल के लिए रखा जाता था, 5 साल के बाद रिलीज कर दो. Then there was another notification जिसमें उनको extension दी गई another 5 years. Then a third notification came where it was extended to 14 years. And after that, they were to be released. No permanent commission. So this PIL came up, and उसमें जो service rule में clause था, appointed to be appointed in various appointments only. मतलब कुछ categories थी, जैसे JAG है या 2-4 और categories है, only there women can be recruited. So this was considered unconstitutional. This was deleted by the order of the court, and the court said that this is not constitutional, and permanent commission has to be given to all the women officers who have completed 14 years or 20 years, just like their male counterparts. And therefore, in this judgment, I was just going through the judgment, a very long judgment, and in this, number of women officers have been cited who fought for the country, who gave exemplary services for the country. And the bench held that, look at these women officers. They are no less than male officers. And how can you, this is no reasonable classification on the basis of gender. You can't say that. So therefore, this could not happen. This couldn't have happened if had there been no impact of feminist jurisprudence. Now, it is not that everything is very rosy. I would like to come to the cases, to the laws governing violence against women, where we had again very interesting examples how the laws are interpreted and adjudications are made through gender stereotypes. And the first that comes to my mind is the Mathura rape case, with which you are all familiar, and in which the teenage girl, she was hardly 14-15 years, and she goes with her male relatives to a police station which is in a remote area, and they file a complaint, and they asked the relatives to get a medical evidence of her age. So while the relatives are going, one of the policemen gets hold of the hand of the girl and says that you leave her, we have to record her statement. And both the uniformed policemen, they raped her. Now, when this case went to the court, what happened, you all know that they were acquitted. And finally, in the final judgment, they were acquitted on what basis? That what is the basis on which rape is defined? It was consent. So nobody heard her screams. She never cried. She never shouted. She never screamed for help. There were no bruises on her body. She never resisted, which means that it was with her consent. And she was sexually active because she already had a boyfriend, and she already was sexually active. So therefore, and it was this case which led to a huge hue and cry, the women organizations and the law commission. Then a distinction was made between consent and submission. It is one thing to give active consent. It is another to just helplessly submit. And that made a lot of difference in how the rape cases are going to be adjudicated. Not that after that, all the gender sensitivity came. No, even judges are human beings. Judges are people like us who are socialized in the same cultural practices, cultural patterns, who carry in their heads the same mindsets and gender stereotypes. And that is why you find many of the judgments who are very, very regressive and very, very gender biased. Even, the kind of laws which came up, for instance, the Hindu Succession Act of 2005 amendment, where equal right has been given to daughters over property, inherited property of the father with her brother. This is revolutionary. This is very positive in the sense that it gives, the property rights which we were long aspiring for. But when we were doing fieldwork in Haryana, we had a discussion with groups of women and we asked them whether they knew of this right. They said, yes, we know. Then we said, Would you exercise this right? Do you think daughters should get the right property? No, 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 no. This is a sin. Paap hai ye. So this is the right of the brothers alone, the sons alone, because they are to look after the parents. Now the law says that the daughter will have equal co-parental right and equal liability also towards the parents. She also has to look after the parents. लेकिन वो हमारा social system allow नहीं करता है. You send the girl to another family, and now she is the slave of that family. She cannot do anything without their permission. And do you think that they will welcome her father or mother and take care of or send her to their place, to take care of the parents? So the social system doesn't accept it. Most of the laws are facing this problem because the social customs are where they were. In Haryana, if even today, I've come across a large number of cases. The girl is a doctor, postgraduate, pediatrician, gynecologist, and they're looking for a match. It has to be this caste, this gotra, this family, this, and you are unable to find a match for her. And even today, if you ask them, what age a girl should marry, we did this because the legal age is 18. And most of the people there in Jhajjar, in Mewat, in other areas, they said 12 or 13 years. That is the age a girl should be married off. Who bothers about the legal age of marriage? Domestic Violence Act of 2005. These legislations could not have come up had there been no impact of feminism. So therefore, this is a huge Criminal Amendment Act of 2013 after the Delhi rape case. But it is also true that had Delhi rape not happened, we wouldn't have had Sexual Harassment Act of 2013, Criminal Amendment Act. It was only Delhi rape which shook the whole of the country, because the whole world was looking at us. Delhi was, labeled as the rape capital of India. And if you remember, there was a documentary which was made immediately after this, which was banned immediately. In that documentary, there was a public prosecutor who was interviewed. And what were his views? He said, had it been my daughter standing on the road at 10:30 in the midnight on 16 December with a boy, I would straight away had poured kerosene on her and burnt her alive there and then. Now, this is the public prosecutor who have studied law. And this is the mindset. This is the gender stereotyped mind. What do we expect from them? I'm more encountered by this problem. So therefore, 498A, when dowry deaths, stoves, burst only for girls. Nobody else dies. It's only for girls. And therefore, husband and his relatives, cruelty by them, this becomes a law. I'll come later to what is happening to these. What I mean is that subjectivity still counts. Your mindset counts. Gender stereotypes count a lot. Laws don't matter at certain. Every day, people are not going to courts to get justice. Even if they go, what happens? I hope you are aware of skin-to-skin contact case of Justice Ganediwala, Pushpa, Bombay High Court. And it is shocking. It is painful. When I go through such cases, it is painful. This is a child of 12 years, girl, and 13-year-old man. And the judgment, it was held that groping a child's breast without skin-to-skin contact doesn't amount to sexual assault in POCSO Act. It just amounts to outraging the modesty under 354. And how could a woman judge? It's not a male judge, it's a woman judge. And before this also, she had given a similar kind of judgment, we all know, where it was just 5-year-old girl. And she said, it's not sexual assault. This is only a case which has been publicized, which has come to the public view. There are many such judgments. When an appeal was filed to the Supreme Court, what Supreme Court has held is again very interesting, and it says the intention is important and not skin-to-skin contact. What was the intention of the person? I am reminded of Apparel Export Promotion Council case of sexual harassment, in which a similar thing happened and similar kind of judgment was given by Supreme Court, in which the girl, who was a typist, she didn't know shorthand. She was molested by the assistant, the male assistant, and the council found him guilty. They dismissed him. He went in appeal, and he was again reinstated. And then the council went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court held, why was he acquitted? He was acquitted on the basis that he tried to molest her, but he was not successful. He couldn't. The Supreme Court said, will you wait for that? But it's a question of discretion. The judge has a discretion. You have the law in front of you, the bare act, the law in paper. How you interpret it, how you practice is different. And it is there that gender stereotypes matter a lot. And it is there that one judge, and it's not a question of man or woman. No. I don't want you to take this impression that women are gender sensitive and men are not. No, it's no question of man or woman. Both may be or may not be equally patriarchal. Women sometimes are more gender insensitive than men, right? It is a common saying, it has been found in various studies, that women say that we are happier under male bosses than women bosses. So therefore, it's not a man-women question. The interpretation is based upon your stereotype. So we have a long way to go. What I mean to say is that the law is necessary but not sufficient. We've had Sexual Harassment Act 2013. Long before that, and if we go to the Bhavri Devi case, when she was gang raped by the Gujars while doing her duty, all the 5 rapists were accused, were acquitted. On what basis? One, they are of the upper caste, she is from a lower caste. How can the upper caste touch and rape the lower caste? It's not possible. Out of the 5, 2 are uncle and nephew, chacha bhatija. Chacha bhatija ek साथ कैसे rape कर सकते हैं? It's not possible. And the third P was that in front of her husband, in the presence of husband, how can a woman be raped? And they were acquitted. This is a case of gender stereotyped mind. Such judgments. It is not that today with feminist jurisprudence everything is changed. No. If we take the example of Sexual Harassment Act 2013, which has mandated the formation of ICCs, the internal complaints committees in every organization, how these committees function is more important. Whether the committee members themselves are gender sensitive or not. I've seen a large number of committees where the chairperson is so patriarchal, is so insensitive. How do you expect these committees to function in a gender sensitive manner? And the legal literacy is so poor in our country. I always find that our young boys, girls, they're very educated, PhD bhi kar lete hain, but they don't know the basic legal rights and duties. One of my students who is doing her PhD, she got married, a bright girl. She is teaching in a college, prestigious college also. And she got married, and after a while, she was being maltreated. And one night, at night around 10:30 in December, very cold, she called me and said, they've thrown me out. I'm standing on the road. What should I do, ma'am? She had no idea as to where to go. And at that time, I felt that what kind of education are we giving to our children? They don't even know the basic things, basic, legal provisions of protection. And I said, why don't you call the helpline, women's helpline? I also tried, nobody picked up. Itni thand mein kaun aata hai hamare country mein? So then I knew one DGP. I called him and he said, 10 minutes mein I'm sending people there, police vehicle. And this is how she was helped. So therefore, अक्सर मैं एक बार I was the chairperson of the department, and one girl from master's course, she came to me and said that there's a boy who is not behaving properly, is misbehaving. I said, is he doing it physically? She said, no, not yet. But he clicks photographs and he makes gestures. After a while, another girl came, and then a third girl came. She said that he's now doing it physically also. So I called that boy. I said, I've got complaints against you, but I was waiting. It is not one, but by 3 girls against you only. So if you continue with this, there'll be a case of sexual harassment against you. He was furious and he banged my table. He said, how dare you? Have I raped the girl? Tell me who she is. Give me the names of the girls. I have not raped anyone. I said, you don't have to do that. He said, there are other girls. I behave in the same manner and they don't have any objection to this. And he was right. But he had never been educated. We have no system. Law is only for law students. It should be for everybody. Legal literacy should be for everybody. And therefore, by studying law, you don't become gender sensitive. Rise of feminist jurisprudence automatically will not give gender sensitivity. But what difference it makes is that at least in public, it's very difficult to give gender biased judgments. And but still, it will vary from person to person because we are not robots. In the courtrooms, we don't have robots. We have human beings who are who have learned the ways of society through their socialization, through custom. And customs, traditions are much more important, stronger, powerful than laws. And they refuse to dilute. And a lot of responsibility, therefore, comes on the teachers of law, on the practitioners of law. And therefore, when we teach law, मैंने जब law किया complete, तो मैं यही सोचती थी कि law पढ़ाने वाले जो teachers हैं, अच्छे teachers होने चाहिए. अच्छे teachers कैसे होते हैं? अच्छे teachers वो होते हैं कि जो किसी भी law को relate कर पाते हैं reality के साथ. And then उसकी जो interpretation है, एक interpretation मत दीजिए बच्चों को. Give them multiple interpretations. Because interpretations are always multiple. हर चीज की interpretations multiple होती हैं, एक होती नहीं है, right? So with this I will stop, and I would love to have learn from you, from the experts from law. और जहाँ भी मेरे से गलती हुई है, I'm sorry for that, and you can point out very, very frankly. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, ma'am. In fact, this the way you have explained everything, to relate law with sociology, society, that's very, very important. In fact, our new education policy also wants that only. We have in law also now 5-year, BA LLB program, where in fact in SRM University, we are having this sociology as a major subject.
Good.
And I'll inform you that I am chairperson of ICC committee here, Internal Complaints Committee. So, no, I also pointed out the same mistake what you just mentioned.
बहुत आती हैं, बहुत चिट्ठियां आती हैं चेयरमैन. अब हमारी यूनिवर्सिटी में फॉर इंस्टेंस बहुत से जो प्रिंटेड मटेरियल होता है ना, वो इकट्ठा प्रिंट करवा देते हैं, कई साल चलता है. तो नाउ दे आर नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज इट. तो उसमें ही कैलेंडर में भी ही लिखा हुआ है. So many a times I feel sad when a woman sends me a letter using this language.
My one query is, like, you have touched almost all the aspects. The marital rape, what is still the matter subject is, because rape is rape. We are not bothered who the perpetrator is.
Yes.
So what's your take on this? Because it's still the patriarchal society, what you just mentioned, woman is still considered the property of the man.
I'm very happy that you asked this question. Somewhere I slipped off. I had noted it down. If you look at the jurisprudence and the practice of law in India as it has been done over the years, we have always been prioritizing family over individual. More so in case of women. Family has to be preserved. Family, whether it was divorce, whether it was marital rape, whether it was property rights, it has been the even restitution of conjugal rights, that family has to be preserved. Family has to be nothing at the cost of family. Even today, yes, the most important thing which I wanted to end up with, I just forgot, and thank you for this.
No.
All the laws which have come up as a result of feminist jurisprudence, 498A, Sexual Harassment Act, domestic violence. Now a narrative is being created that women are misusing these laws everywhere. A narrative, Me Too movement also. Me Too movement came with a big bash, but then suddenly it sank, and a narrative has been created that women are misusing. Now, marital rape, it is very private. Long back, we said that private is public, and this is how feminism began. But a man earlier, the age was 15. If she is more than 15, husband can always have sexual relations, and if she's now more than 18, he can have. But yes, marital rape is an offense, and this is the time when it is recognized. I give you one instance. When we were doing this field work, when I'm citing this field work, this was a very extensive study which we did in Punjab and Haryana, 3 districts each and 6 villages each. So 6 plus 6, 12, and 6, 18 villages and towns we took. And we went to Yamunanagar, and there were 2 villages. In the town of Yamunanagar, there was one locality which was a slum-like locality, and our team was told that it is a bad name, criminals and so on. And when the team went there, we met the women there. The women told us in groups also, individually also, that we have a very tough time. Our husbands are drunkards, jua khelte hain, crime karte hain. And we said, as you talk to them, kya yahan pe violence hai? And they used to start laughing. देखना है, रात को आओ, देखो. और कोई प्राइवेसी नहीं है, सबके आदमी ऐसे ही हैं. रात को वो पी के आएंगे, फिर हमें मारेंगे और फिर हमें रेप करेंगे. तो ये तो रोज की कहानी है. And they used to laugh. These poor women. Now, this is marital rape. Long back, I used to hold some training sessions in a government organization. I will not name it, for women. क्योंकि वो कहते थे कि जो women हैं वो हमें male efficiency बढ़ जाती है. You give them a good dose on how to not to create problems at home and arrange everything nicely so that their men give us more work in the organization. There was a woman who told me her story, which I have not been able to forget throughout. She said, my husband, would come home, and the moment he would knock, मैं पूरी tremble करने लग जाती हूँ, मैं डरने लग जाती हूँ. He would come and he would pounce upon me. He would rape me multiple times a day. Whether I'm having fever, whether I'm unwell, whether I'm having problems, And, when she was talking to me, she was shivering like anything. Marital rape is a big problem. These are the women who talk to us. But more educated, middle class, upper class women, they don't even share these things with anybody. So therefore, when we are talking of women's reproductive rights, when we are talking of women's basic human rights, why can't we talk about marital rape also? It is this balance between family and a woman as an individual. Whenever crime rate increases, women are blamed. You're not taking care of your children properly. Yesterday also there was a program with some women teachers, and one of the senior women at the level of principal, she said, it is the responsibility of the mother to ensure that the children get these values. I said, why? Why is it not a responsibility of both the parents? Why only women? The man can come home drunk. He can beat up the mother. He can have sex with her forcibly, and it is her responsibility to teach good values to the son. How can that happen? So therefore, I find it superficial. We are talking of women's rights, basic rights. It is superficial at superficial level, and women themselves are not understanding what are human rights. We have misconstrued the meaning of freedom. Freedom is not that you get off, drive a car, you don't do this, I'll also not do this, so I'm also free, you also free. No, nobody has taught us what freedom means. We need to talk to our younger people, younger generation, our boys and girls. We are talking of feminism. How many young girls know what feminism is? They have no problems. The only thing is they should have money to spend and they are happy. So therefore, this market is telling us what is feminism. Television is telling us what is freedom. What is freedom for me? To drive a Mercedes. This is freedom. So therefore, education. Where are the messages coming from education? So therefore, that is why I say whenever the question of marital rape comes, it is husband-wife relationship, family, even divorce. How difficult it is to get a divorce, and what divorce means for a man and a woman. There's a hell of difference. So therefore, this balance has to be dealt with. I always appreciate when I watch the Western movies. A woman is in love with a man, has a family, has a child, and then they feel that no, they are not getting they can't get along anymore. Very mutually, they would say, okay, let us get off, and they go with somebody else, and again, that is a better way of doing things, I feel.
Yeah, rather than to drag on that relationship.
Being adulterous, having extramarital relations, concealing from each other, telling lies to each other, telling lies to your children. Children at least know that he is my father, and he is the ex-husband of my mother, and I am going with him. At least you are honest, you're telling the truth. We are so hypocritical. And this hypocrisy is eating up our society.
Yeah, thank you so much, ma'am. I know, because when it comes to sexual harassment or the rape, whoever is the victim is looked down upon by the society.
That is made the accused. The victim
Yes.
is made to appear like an accused.
In fact, I also had a maid whose husband used to beat her every day in the night and, rape her. So I said, Ki, let's go to the police station and file a complaint. She said, Samaj mein izzat mera isi ki wajah se hai. So, the literacy, what you talked about, and we have so many laws, but the poor section of the society, the marginalized section, they do not even have access and they do not even know that the law is there too.
Poor sections की बात करते हो, मुझे तो ज्यादा फिक्र होती है एजुकेटेड मिडिल क्लास की, जो कि बताते भी नहीं है. अगर मेरे साथ कुछ होता है तो आप समझते हो कि मैं किसी से शेयर करूंगी, बिकॉज मेरे स्टेक्स हायर हैं. मुझे गरीब, जब हम डेटा लेते हैं ना, सोशल साइंटिस्ट हैं, वी गो एंड टॉक टू पीपल. It is so easy to get data from villages, from poor localities, slum localities. It is so difficult to get data from educated, upper class, affluent families. वो तो आपको घुसने भी नहीं देते, वो अपनी लाइफ को शेयर ही नहीं करते. तो
because in our society, still a divorced man, can have another marriage and lead the life happily. But for a divorced woman, still the life is pretty difficult.
हमारी फिल्म इंडस्ट्री में 50-55 साल का भी हीरो बनता है, उसकी भी शादी हुई, 2 शादियां हो गई, 3 शादियां भी हो गई. एंड लुक एट द गर्ल गेट्स मैरिड एंड हर कैरियर इज गॉन. वो सारा दिन भूखी रह के पता नहीं क्या क्या करके अपनी बॉडी बनाती रहती हैं. एंड बट द एज,
that is what is expected from her.
And look at the payment which a hero gets and a heroine gets. She may be Deepika Padukone, but you compare with Ranveer.
That discrimination is always there.
Yes, that is right.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. Over to you.
Equal Remuneration Act है हमारे पास.
Yes, but rightly you said that the laws are away from the reality. Thank you so much, sir. Over to you, Ashwati. I think most of the participants want to have an interaction with you.
Yes, most welcome. I want to learn from you. Please give me your feedback.
Thank you so much,
Thank you
ma'am.
so
So, before we take a couple of questions from the participants, with your permission, can I ask a couple of questions first?
Of course, you are one of the participants.
Yes. So, ma'am, my question is with respect. Do you think that the current wave of feminism it's adequately intersectional? Does it take into account factors like caste? Because the battles that are fought by a Savarna woman are different from the battles that a Dalit woman would have to fight. So, would the same wave of feminism address both? That's one question. Ma'am, my next one is with respect to how law is adequately used as a tool for social reformation.
भूल जाऊंगी एक-एक करके पूछ.
Okay, ma'am. So I
Yes.
I think second question she has already answered. First question at her.
मैंने तो सुना ही नहीं second question. मैं first पे
I'll come to it later, ma'am. I didn't ask it.
because it moves your starts moving your mind. Intersectionality is a very key variable in the so-called fourth wave of feminism. Although I won't consider it as a wave of feminism because it's very scattered, it's very fragmented, right? And inclusive. You're talking of inclusion in feminism. I don't think it is inclusive, and it has been diluted. जो फर्स्ट वेव थी, चाहे वो एक पर्टिकुलर काइंड ऑफ विमेन थी, black women were not involved and other women were not involved, but they were still focused. Lekin now you don't have a focus, and the whole feminist objective has been diluted, and there are various factors responsible for that. Yes, intersectionality is very important. The needs are different, the issues are different, the problems are different. The access is different to technology and infrastructure. Look at digital divide. When we were moving in the villages of Punjab and Haryana, particularly in Haryana, लड़कियों ने कभी कंप्यूटर देखा ही नहीं, उन्होंने कभी कंप्यूटर टच ही नहीं किया. They are not supposed to. टीवी नहीं लगा सकती थी, लड़की टीवी नहीं देखेगी, बिगड़ जाएगी, भाग जाएगी. मोबाइल नहीं देखेगी, टेक्नोलॉजी नहीं है. So this section of women who don't know what empowerment means, who don't know what Indian Constitution is, who don't want what their human body, means. So a huge population is completely oblivious. It doesn't know what this feminism is and what women's rights are. And moreover, the problem is actually with commercialization, the nexus between media, market, where the questions like freedom, the questions like feminism are being addressed by the media and market. The consumerism, it's a consumerist culture. For instance, I was just reading in countries like Korea, Japan, where private sector is huge. The height of the girls is normally not much. They're short statured, and so they have thighs which are quite bulky, and now they want a perfect body, so they go overseas and they get operated, and while getting the fat removed, even some muscles are also removed in order to make them look thin, because of which they can't walk fast, they can't run, and they are getting it done. So much premium on the youth on, is this feminism? And this is being sold as feminism. Feminism is this. You put a slogan on the t-shirt and I am a feminist and this is feminism. So therefore, air hostesses, I always wonder why a woman air hostess has to, if she has a flight at 6 o'clock in the morning, what time would she be getting up to get all the makeup, all the hairdo and all these things? While the male counterparts don't need all this. Is this feminism? So therefore, this is blurred. We are talking of intersectionality. I think market, media, politics, there is trivialization of feminism. In every school, you are debating on feminism and women empowerment as if it is a joke. And actually, if you ask anybody, what is women's empowerment? You can't answer. There are no answers. So therefore, it's all blurred. It's no longer a monolithic, a single movement. The focus is gone. it has been damaged badly and misconstrued, misinterpreted. I hope I made sense.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Very much. Thank you.
Second question. Now give me the second question.
Yes, ma'am. The second one is about, social reformatory movements, which are meant for women and which also sometimes use law as a tool, but they don't adequately engage with the women that it seeks to emancipate, especially in cases where those women are somehow conditioned to be complicit in their own oppression. And then it transgresses into somewhere us being just victims of some sort of a savior syndrome. So, how do you think a social reformation could stay away from becoming a sort of savior syndrome and still stay on track?
Can you take an example for this?
Ma'am, specifically with respect to the Sabrimala debate, because it was supposed to be for women, but then the people out there protesting were also women. So somewhere in the sense of social reformation, the people who fought the battle were maybe, perhaps, seeing themselves as saviors.
You know, this normally happens whenever religious elements come in. And religion is dragged into it. Religion is always brought into it. And as I said, you don't need men to suppress women. You have a sufficient number of women to do that. That happens not only there, that happens in sexual harassment cases also. It is the women who target the women complainants rather than the men. I was holding an inquiry in a university where it was the complainant and accused were from a health center, and there was a doctor, and there was a female doctor, there was a CMO male, and 22 employees were there, out of which 2 are accused and the victim. So 20 रह गए. 20 को हमने बुलाया, हमने उनकी statement ली. All 20 deposed in the favor of the accused. The woman doctor, I said, you're a woman and you're a doctor. Now this man was a powerful man. He was an attendant, but he was associated with the CM. और सबको कहता था कि मैं ये कर दूंगा, मैं वो कर दूंगा. So therefore, it's not a question of man or woman. And you are right. Reformation, I would not call it a reformatory movement also. No, there is no reformation involved in this. You have to scratch it a little. There is a lot of politics into this. There is a power game. जो मंदिर भी होते हैं ना, मंदिर गुरुद्वारे जो religious organizations भी हैं, lots of power and money are involved there, and therefore it's a division of power. Nobody wants to part with power and money. तो ये ऊपर से कुछ नजर आता है, मीडिया में कुछ नजर आता है, लेकिन एक्चुअली कुछ और होता है. वी सोशल साइंटिस्ट हम पुलिस वालों की तरह होते हैं. मैं अपने स्टूडेंट्स को कहती हूँ कि जैसे पुलिस वाले किसी पे विश्वास नहीं करते, तो तुमने भी फील्ड में जाके किसी की जो वर्बल वो कह रहा है उस पर विश्वास नहीं करना है. यू हैव टू क्वेश्चन, यू हैव टू प्रोब. सो हम जो न्यूज़पेपर्स में हमें जो दिखाया जाता है, टीवी स्क्रीन पे दिखाया जाता है, दैट इज नॉट ट्रू. ट्रूथ इज समथिंग एल्स, एंड देयर इज ऑलवेज पॉलिटिक्स. पॉलिटिक्स एक बहुत बड़ा एलिमेंट है, चाहे वो लॉ में हो, चाहे वो पॉलिसी में हो, चाहे वो रेफॉर्मेशन में हो. आजकल तो एनजीओज भी, जो हम सोचते हैं हजारों एनजीओज, लाखों एनजीओज रजिस्टर हुई हैं, दे आर ऑल्सो political and financial commercial entities. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. So, ma'am, there's another question with respect to the titles which women use, as in the titles which are used for women, that women are addressed in terms of their marital status, Miss or Mrs., whereas men are only addressed as Mr. without any reference to their marital status. So the question is with respect to why this could be happening.
Name the person who has asked this question.
Ms. Deshadri. Ms. Deshadri has asked this question.
Okay. Very good. जैसे मैंने कहा कि chairperson and chairman, you should make a distinction. You need not. It will take time. First, women themselves have to realize that they don't need marital status. अब जैसे the symbol of marital status. I remember when the crime against women increased manifold, it is difficult for a single woman, odd time पे ड्यूटी कर रहे हो, कॉल सेंटर से आ रहे हो, ऑफिस से आ रहे हो, ट्रैवल कर रहे हो. सो लड़कियां क्या करती थी, अनमैरिड लड़कियां हैं, वो चूड़ा पहन लिया उन्होंने, या यहाँ पे लगा लिया, बिंदी लगा ली, टू शो दैट आई एम मैरिड, सो देयरफॉर आई एम नॉट अवेलेबल, सो यू कांट sometimes women have to have had to use this also. So I think it has to be contextual. But then this has been the tradition. As I said, it was taken that man and woman are completely different entities. And marriage is the ultimate goal of for a woman, and everything changes thereafter. जैसे मैंने कहा कि इंटरव्यू में when a boy comes for interview, nobody questions him. शादी कब हुई तुम्हारी, बच्चा कब होगा, ये क्या होगा, लेकिन वुमन को पूछा जाता है. So therefore, this has to be a conscious effort has to be made. ये हमारे मतलब it's we have got used to with all this. It comes naturally to us, but it should not question, challenge these things. मैं ये नहीं कहती कि हर चीज पे fight करो, हर चीज पे लड़ाई करो. No, but very tactfully. You have to be very wise and intelligent. Intelligent के साथ wise होना बहुत जरूरी है. कहाँ पे क्या करना है और कितना करना है. So people who are in authority for that matter, मैं हमेशा ये कहती हूँ women को कि जिनके पास authority, उस authority को use करो. जैसे मीटिंग है तो मैं साइन कर दूंगी, मुझे मिनट्स भेज देना, यू नो आई एम गोइंग होम. नो, दैट इज क्रिमिनल. डोंट फोरगो योर अथॉरिटी, यूज योर अथॉरिटी. एंड देन if you don't want to use Mrs. and these kinds of, don't use. I've seen so many women colleagues who will introduce themselves as Mrs. so and so. I myself am introducing myself as very few of us actually. मैंने पहले भी आपसे कहा था कि हम में से कितने लोग हैं, औरतें हैं या लड़कियां हैं, जो कभी ये सोचती हैं कि मुझे अपनी आइडेंटिटी चाहिए, मेरे घर के बाद मेरी भी नेम प्लेट लगी होनी चाहिए. अगर मेरे हस्बैंड की लगी हुई है तो मेरी क्यों नहीं लगी? आई नीड एन I don't want to be tagged with somebody. I want a separate identity. That should be a dream. इसका ये मतलब नहीं है कि मैं चैलेंज कर रही हूँ तुम्हें, मैं तुम्हारे साथ रिलेशंस नहीं रखना चाहती. नो, इफ हस्बैंड कैन हैव वाइफ, व्हाई कांट अ वाइफ? लेकिन उसमें वो डिजायर तो पैदा होना चाहिए ना. मोस्ट ऑफ द विमेन डोंट हैव दैट डिजायर. वो ऐसे ही जिंदगी जैसे चल रही है, ठीक है, कंफर्ट जोन में बैठे. सो आई एम वेरी हैप्पी दैट दिस क्वेश्चन वाज रेज्ड. Such questions need to be raised.
Ma'am, especially like after marriage, when women does not want to change their surname, so it is believed that they are not, accepting the in-laws properly, like fully. They are not accepting it just because they have not changed their surnames or they are not ready for it.
देखो ऐसा है कि अब तो काफी चेंज हो रहा है.
Yes, nowadays girls are very assertive.
Now this is happening. लेकिन पता है क्या है, मैं ये सोचती हूँ, जब शुरू में यू आर लुकिंग फॉर अ मैच, ठीक है, उस टाइम बहुत बार आप सबमिट करते चले जाते. शुरू में चीजें खोल दिया करो. आई एम नॉट गोइंग टू चेंज माई सरनेम, एक्सेप्टेबल और नॉट. ये मेरा नाम है, मेरी आइडेंटिटी है. आई कैन नॉट. पहले तो नाम भी बदल देते थे, आज भी बदलते हैं बहुत सारे लोग. मतलब नाम बदलना कितनी बड़ी बात है. एक पेट भी होता है ना, एक डॉग आपने रखा हुआ है ना, उसको भी उसी नाम से बुलाते हो तो वो आता है, उसकी वो आइडेंटिटी है. और एक लड़की जब शादी के बाद इतनी बड़ी होके उसका आप नाम बदल देते हो, उसकी आइडेंटिटी बदल देते हो. लेकिन मुझे प्रॉब्लम ये है कि उन लड़कियों को कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है.
Ma'am, but still it is believed, especially by men only, that you're quite straightforward. Like this, you're not gonna get any good match if you're being so straightforward that you don't want to change your surname. You're not.
Don't get married to such a man. Don't get married to such a man.
No, ma'am, it is believed.
कॉम्प्लीमेंट है मैडम. श्रद्धा, स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड होना तो मुझे कोई कहे, मैं तो कॉम्प्लीमेंट देती हूँ कि यू आर स्ट्रेट फॉरवर्ड. एंड
even I do that.
remember there is always a cost for everything. You can't eat the cake and have it too. जब मैं पहली बार सेनेट में गई, पंजाब यूनिवर्सिटी की सेनेट में, इट्स अ 91 मेंबर हाउस, ठीक है, तो मैंने कभी देखा ही नहीं था सेनेट क्या होती है. पार्लियामेंट जैसी होती है, एक दूसरे के बस गिरेबान पकड़ते हैं. तो मैंने जब कुछ बोलना होता था, मैं अपना हैंड रेज करती थी और बस वो रेज ही रह जाता था और आ जाती थी. ऐसे ही 1.5-2 साल निकल गए. सो देन आई थॉट कि ये तो मेरी तो टर्म 4 साल की है, तो आई एम वेस्टिंग माई टाइम. देन आई डिसाइडेड टू hell with this graceful and soft spoken and this thing. I also then asserted myself as other people do. Men did. Most of the women, they don't speak इसीलिए, because men look good when they are aggressive. Assertive meaning aggressive, and when they dominate and when they shout, it is all right for them. But a woman doing this, how bad. She looked so ungraceful. I said, to hell with it. And then wherever required, I would stand up, I would shout, I would scream. I made it a point that I'm heard. You have to come out of your comfort zone. मुझे लगता है कि हमें थोड़ा सा थिक स्किन होना पड़ेगा, थिक स्किन होना चाहिए. वी आर टू बॉदर्ड. क्लास में मैं कोई क्वेश्चन पूछती हूँ, एक लड़का खड़ा होता है, इररिलेवेंट सा जवाब देता है, सारी क्लास हंसती है, वो भी हंसता हंसता बैठ जाता है. एक लड़की खड़ी होती है, वो कोई जवाब देती है, सब हंसते हैं, वो उसके बाद सारी जिंदगी सवाल नहीं पूछती. वो इतनी, हम उसको इतना बना रखा है ना कि भाई
The way we
appreciated. तो ये गलत बात है. We can never grow. We can never grow in life. अगर गलतियां करें कोई बात नहीं, लेकिन men can commit mistakes, women can't. ये कहाँ लिखा हुआ है? And try to appreciate each other. बाकियों को भी appreciate करो. मैं ही मैं हूँ बस, ऐसा नहीं है. We have to appreciate each other जहाँ भी कर सकते हैं. And I can't be perfect कि सब मेरे में ही सारे गुण हैं, ऐसा नहीं हो सकता है. So therefore, whatever I am. Straight forward होना एक बहुत अच्छा compliment है. तो अगर कोई कहता है, बहुत अच्छी बात है. बोलो thank you very much. I take this.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
मैम आई हैव अ क्वेश्चन. आपने इंटरव्यूज जब क्वेश्चंस हमसे पूछते रिगार्डिंग हमारा मैरिज, चिल्ड्रंस एंड, सो हाउ डू वी हैंडल दिस सिचुएशंस? सो वी कांट से नो टू, हम रिप्लाई नहीं करेंगे बिकॉज दे आर इन द पोजीशन ऑफ द इंटरव्यूअर एंड वी आर द इंटरव्यू. हाउ डू वी हैंडल दीज सिचुएशंस?
आप इंटरव्यू मैट्रिमोनियल सेंस में पूछ रहे हो?
नो मैम, इन द एजुकेशनल इंस्टीट्यूशन व्हेन दे आस्क अस द क्वेश्चंस.
सिलेक्शंस के टाइम पे, सिलेक्शंस के.
यस मैम.
देखो ऐसा है, आपको ना टैक्टफुली हैंडल करना आना चाहिए. सीधा जवाब नहीं देते होते. अब विमेन क्या है, विमेन को कैसे प्रोजेक्ट किया जाता है? विमेन आर वेरी सिंपल, दे आर वेरी नाइस, दे आर वेरी सेक्रीफाइसिंग, दे आर वेरी सबमिसिव. मतलब बेवकूफ है उसका, मैं इसको पंजाबी में, हिंदी में बेवकूफ कहती हूँ. यू हैव टू बी अ लिटिल श्रूड, यू हैव टू बी अ लिटिल वर्ल्डली वाइज. मेन आर, क्योंकि मेन का एक्सपोजर होता है. वो छोटे से जब होते हैं, छोटे छोटे बच्चे भी होते हैं, वो बाहर जाते हैं, वो घूमते हैं, उनके दोस्त होते हैं. तो हमारी तो पहले तो दोस्त होती नहीं है, होती है तो कितना इंटरेक्शन होता है, शादी होती है, उसके बाद हमारे दोस्त खत्म हो जाते हैं, राइट? सो देयरफॉर हमें थोड़ा सा श्रूड होना बहुत जरूरी है. श्रूड नेगेटिव सेंस में क्यों लेते हैं? When you say a man is ambitious, it's a positive thing. When you say a woman is ambitious, it's always taken as negative. Why can't a woman be ambitious? She is very career oriented. It's good. Why not? It's not a sin to be career oriented. So therefore, if somebody, for instance, मैं आपको एक एग्जांपल देती हूँ. मैं जब लॉ कर रही थी ना, तो इवनिंग में कर रही थी. अब तो बंद हो गया इवनिंग वाला. तो 5 to 9 क्लासेस होती थी. 5:30 to 9. I was working also. तो 5 बजे तक मैं अपने डिपार्टमेंट से इवनिंग स्टडीज में चली जाती थी क्लासेस लगाने के लिए. तो 8:30-9 बज जाते थे. एंड आई हैड सम क्लास फेलोज, मोस्टली एम्प्लॉयज होते थे उस टाइम, जो शाम को क्लासेस लगाते हैं. सो देयर वाज वन पर्सन हु वाज वर्किंग इन हरियाणा गवर्नमेंट. तो वो, उसकी एज 40s में था. तो कई दिन वो बेचारा ऑब्जर्व करता रहा, बड़ा डिस्टर्ब रहा होगा. फिर एक दिन मुझे पूछता है, मैडम यू डोंट हैव एनी फैमिली, You don't have any liability? तो मैं समझ गई, मेरी हंसी छूट गई. मैंने कहा देखो ऐसा है, लेकिन मैं मानती नहीं. I don't take on any liability, I don't take on any responsibility. उसका मतलब था कि सुबह से रात तक यहाँ बैठी रहती हो तो घर में बच्चे कौन देखता है, फैमिली कौन देखता है? Why don't you ask such questions to men? Only women are asked such questions. तुम्हें क्या पता हम कैसे करते हैं? तुम्हें क्या पता हम कितने बजे उठते हैं सुबह? तुम्हें क्या पता कि हम गॉसिप नहीं करते हैं तुम्हारी तरह? तुम्हें क्या पता कि कभी फोन करने के लिए 10 बार सोचती हूँ कि ये टाइम नहीं है मेरे पास, बाद में करूंगी, कल करूंगी. तुम्हें क्या पता, राइट? बट देन हर चीज पे मतलब यू हैव टू. उसके बाद मुझे उसने कुछ कभी नहीं पूछा. ही वाज सो सेटिस्फाइड. उसके चेहरे पे इतना सुकून था दैट दिस वुमन इज गुड फॉर नथिंग. आई सेड यू बी हैप्पी, आई डोंट नीड अ सर्टिफिकेट फ्रॉम यू. तो एक तरीका होता है, वो तरीका एक्सपीरियंस से आता है. शुरू में मैं भी ऐसी नहीं होती थी. आपको थपेड़े, समय के थपेड़े बना देते हैं ऐसे, बट यू शुड लर्न। कई लोग होते हैं जो एंड तक वैसे ही रहते हैं, तो सीखना तो हमारे बस में है ना, सीखो तो सही कम से कम, राइट? सो टैकल दीज थिंग्स इन अ वेरी इंटेलिजेंट मैनर, दैट विल बी बेटर।
Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, there's another question from Dr. K. Prasanna Rani. She has sought your inputs on pre-marriage contracts, whether it would affect familial structure in our situation.
देखो, ऐसा है कि हमारा इनिशियली इन आवर सिस्टम मैरिज वाज ऑलवेज कंसिडर्ड एज अ सेक्रेमेंट, समथिंग सेक्रेड, नॉट सेक्युलर। तो ये एक बंधन है जो टूटता नहीं है, और ये भगवान वहां से बन के आते हैं, संजोग ऐसे वैसे। तो देन वी हैव कम टू अ सिचुएशन जहाँ पे प्री नप्शल कॉन्ट्रैक्ट्स होने लगे, एग्रीमेंट्स होने लगे, तुम ये करोगे, तुम वो नहीं करोगे। दिस इज अ स्टार्क दिस थिंग कंट्रास्ट। तो मैं अभी भी ये सोचती हूँ कि बजाय इसके इतना एक्सट्रीमिस्ट होने की बजाय, इट इज बेटर इफ एट द टाइम ऑफ मैरिज देयर इज अ स्ट्रेट टॉक between the two families and the two individuals, so that we reveal more than we conceal. हम conceal करते हैं एक दूसरे से बहुत ज्यादा। तो प्री नप्शियल एग्रीमेंट्स वो बहुत ही ब्लंट हो जाता है, बहुत ही, मतलब रिलेशनशिप तो एक उस पे होना चाहिए, फेथ पे, ट्रस्ट पे होना चाहिए। कोई भी रिलेशनशिप शुड बी बेस्ड अपॉन ट्रस्ट। जो ट्रस्ट पे नहीं होता वो रिलेशनशिप ज्यादा देर नहीं टिकता। तो पहले ही अगर आप इस तरह से रिलेशनशिप बना रहे हो, आई एम नॉट वेरी हैप्पी, आई मे बी ट्रेडिशनल, आई मे बी कन्वेंशनल, लेकिन मोस्ट ऑफ द टाइम्स रिलेशनशिप, जब उस टाइम आप रिलेशनशिप्स बनाते हो ना, आप कहते हो ये तो बताना है, ये मैंने छुपाना है। उस टाइम अगर हम बिल्कुल ओपन होके बात करें तो दैट विल बी बेटर। ऑनेस्ट ट्रस्ट बिल्डिंग हमेशा ऑनेस्ट होनी चाहिए, और ट्रस्ट बिल्डिंग के बेस पे रिलेशनशिप होना चाहिए, मैरिज ऑल्सो।
Thank you very much, ma'am. Ma'am, there's a question from Mr. Abhiram, who's our own sociology professor at this university. Sir, if you would like to ask the question yourself.
Good morning. Very
Yes.
nice session and very enlightening.
Thank you.
One question. Question is about your observation. Means it's a kind of duality when I read Hindu scriptures and text, and there is always mentioning that yatra naryastu pujyante tatra ramanti devata. And even today, that is continuing in social practices like Kanya Pujan during Navratri. So people, they follow it, they do it, and they have faith on it. But when it comes to regularize in their mindset, their practices, they forget it. So it's about socialization from both the side. So what is your observation? Socialization from mother side or father side, means patriarchal mindset, or even mothers, they are forgetting to socialize something, or fathers, they are not socializing their children. So where is this loophole? Where is this gap? So your observation,
Thank
I
you.
want to know.
आपने बड़ा एक अच्छा सा वर्ड यूज किया, डुअलिटी। मैं इसको हिपोक्रेसी कहती हूँ। ये हिपोक्रेसी है। हमने जो रिलीजन है, धर्म है, उसको एक कंपार्टमेंट में रखा हुआ है कि सारा दिन मैं जो कुछ करूं, भगवान अब मुझे माफ कर दे, कल के लिए तैयारी है। तो मैंने अपने पाप आज के धो दिए, राइट? सो रिलीजन मुझे कहता है, फॉर इंस्टेंस आई एम अ सिख, मैं हमेशा ये कहती हूँ कि गुरुद्वारे में कोई कास्ट नहीं होती, हम लोग लंगर सब लोग इकट्ठे खाते हैं। कौन बना रहा है, कौन दे रहा है, कौन मेरे साथ बैठा है, डजंट मैटर, ठीक है, क्योंकि इक्वालिटी। तो गुरुद्वारे के जब बाहर आती हूँ, बस गुरुद्वारे वाला खत्म हो गया, उसके बाद मेरी जिंदगी शुरू हो गई, मैं भूल जाती हूँ, ठीक है। क्लास में मैं जेंडर पढ़ाती हूँ, आपके साथ जेंडर की बातें कर रही हूँ, एज आई टर्न इट ऑफ एंड आई गो टू माई रूटीन, वही जेंडर्ड मैं बन जाती हूँ। सो इट इज हिपोक्रेसी। हमें ये सब कॉन्शियस पे है, ये हम जानबूझ के नहीं कर रहे, ये नेचुरल है, क्योंकि वो मैंने गेन किया जैसे जैसे मैं ग्रो हुई। और ये फादर मदर की बात नहीं, वो तो खुद ही बेचारे पैट्रियार्कल है, वो तो खुद ही स्टीरियोटाइप है, तो वही देंगे जो उनके पास है। उनके लिए जो राइट रॉन्ग था, वो जो जनरेशन गैप है, ठीक है। सो वो ठीक समझते हैं उन्होंने मुझे दिया, लेकिन अगर मैं अपने आप को एजुकेटेड समझती हूँ, इंटेलेक्चुअल समझती हूँ, तो मेरी वैल्यू एडिशन क्या है? जो कुछ मैं पढ़ती हूँ थियोरी में, क्या उसको अप्लाई करना मेरी ड्यूटी नहीं है? क्या मैं उसको एप्लीकेशन करती हूँ या नहीं करती हूँ? चाहे मैं लॉ पढ़ती हूँ फॉर इंस्टेंस, लॉ में देयर इज कंप्लीट इक्वालिटी, बट व्हाट डू वी डू? आप देखो कि जो लड़कियां हैं, जो लॉयर्स हैं, उनसे कोई शादी नहीं करता कि वो आर्ग्यूमेंट बहुत करती। मेरी एक स्टूडेंट थी, उसने पीएचडी किया हरियाणा में एडोलेसेंट लड़कियों पे गांव में। तो गांव में उनसे पूछते थे कि लड़कियों को कितना पढ़ाना चाहिए, चाहे वो बुजुर्ग हैं, चाहे वो यंग लड़के हैं, चाहे वो औरतें हैं, लड़कियां हैं। वो कहते थे कि लड़की को ज्यादा नहीं पढ़ाना चाहिए। क्यों? क्योंकि वो पढ़ने लिखने के बाद ना आर्ग्यूमेंटेटिव हो जाती है। लड़की आर्ग्यूमेंटेटिव नहीं होनी चाहिए, लड़की पढ़ी लिखी बहुत होनी चाहिए, अच्छी नौकरी होनी चाहिए, खूबसूरत भी होनी चाहिए, होमली भी होनी चाहिए, मुंह में जबान नहीं होनी चाहिए। तो देखो, वी आर हिपोक्रेट्स। हम लोग पाँव कंजके पूजते हैं, पाँव धोते हैं, लक्ष्मी की पूजा करते हैं, देवी माँ की पूजा करते हैं। हम औरत को देवी समझते हैं। समझने से ज्यादा सिर्फ समझो मत, उसको ग्रहण करो, और नजर आना चाहिए कि आप देवी समझते हो कि नहीं। नजर तो नहीं आता। आप खुद ही अपने औरतों को कहते हो कि अकेले मत जाओ, बस में मत जाओ। जब मुझे याद है कि मेरे फादर, जब मैं बस में आती थी, ट्रैवल करती थी, हॉस्टल में आती थी, तो बस में चढ़ते थे, फिर देखते थे कि ड्राइवर के साथ जो पहली सीट है, इस पे इस लड़की को बिठा दूं। फिर ड्राइवर को कहते थे इसका ध्यान रखना कि साथ में कोई ना बैठे, क्योंकि साथ बैठेगा तंग करेगा। तो रियलिटी, ग्राउंड रियलिटी तो बहुत खौफनाक है। आज उससे भी ज्यादा है। आज तो राह चलती लड़की को आप खींच के गाड़ी में बिठा लेते हो, ऑटो में जा रही, चंडीगढ़ जैसे शहर में ऑटो रिक्शा में लड़की को ले जाते हो और रेप करके वहां फेंक देते हो। कहाँ की देवी? वो भी मंदिर में जाता होगा जो रेप करता है। शादियां होती हैं, शादियों में छोटी छोटी 14-14 साल की लड़कियों से को नचाते हो छोटे छोटे कपड़े पहन के, वो भी किसी की लड़कियां हैं। उस टाइम कंजके कहाँ जाती हैं? हिपोक्रेसी है। वी आर लिविंग इन ए हिपोक्रेटिक सोसाइटी।
So what is the solution of this?
सॉल्यूशन एजुकेशन में है। एजुकेशन में हम इन चीजों की बात ही नहीं करते। जब हम इतनी उम्र के हो गए तब बात कर रहे हैं। जब हम छोटे छोटे बच्चे स्कूल में होते तब ये बातें करनी चाहिए, तब तो टीचर को छेड़ते हैं। आप जितने प्राइवेट स्कूल्स हैं, एलिट स्कूल्स हैं, आप देखिए लड़के जो हैं एडोलेसेंट, वो अपनी टीचर्स के बारे में क्या बात करते हैं। मेडिकल कॉलेजेस में क्या करते हैं। कास्टिज्म इतना ज्यादा है, जेंडर बायस इतना ज्यादा है। वहां भी हमें काम करने की जरूरत है। शुरू से जो बच्चा रिस्पेक्ट करेगा, जिसको सिखाया जाएगा कि एक जो लड़की है, औरत है, वो उतनी ही रिस्पेक्टेबल है जितना कोई और है, वो तो हम सिखाते नहीं। हम तो सीटियां मारनी सिखाते हैं। कितनी सहेलियां बना ली, लड़की को कितनी सीटी मारी, उसको ये तो बातें हम सिखाते हैं अपने बच्चों को, लड़कों को। तो जो हम बोएंगे वही तो निकलेगा ना, वो हार्वेस्ट भी वही है फिर। तो अब जब मैं तो अक्सर कहती हूँ लोगों को कि भाई, मेरे पास जब यूनिवर्सिटी में बच्चे आते हैं तो 22, 23, 24, 25 साल के आते हैं, बिगाड़ के भेज देते हो। अब कहाँ से सवार दें उनको? तो समथिंग इज टेरिबली रॉन्ग विद आवर एजुकेशन सिस्टम।
Even do you think that in research, sociological research, what is happening today, so Indian society, the nature of it, accordingly, the research is not happening?
Research is not happening means
Based on these problems, focusing on these problems in different areas.
देखिए ऐसा है, वो एक पूरा सेमिनार हो सकता है इस पे। आज रिसर्च आप करते हो सिर्फ प्रमोशन के लिए, एपीआई के लिए। हमने तो अपना सिस्टम बिल्कुल खराब कर दिया ना। आज पेपर पब्लिश करते हैं एपीआई के लिए। अंदर से अर्ज होनी चाहिए, एक अर्ज होती है कि मैंने एक रिसर्चर, हर पीएचडी क्यों कर रहे हैं? नौकरी चाहिए। रिसर्च एप्टीट्यूड है ही नहीं, एक लाइन नहीं लिख सकते, फील्ड में जाके कोई काम नहीं कर सकते, सोच नहीं सकते। रिसर्च हर कोई नहीं कर सकता, लेकिन आज आपको क्वांटिटी चाहिए। आपने यूनिवर्सिटी की नैक टीम को अगर इंप्रेस करना है, आपको क्वांटिटी चाहिए। पीएचडी एनरोलमेंट्स कितनी है? नॉट एवरीबडी शुड डू पीएचडी। Not everybody can do research. क्वालिटी की बात अगर करते हैं तो इसीलिए प्लेजराइज्ड रिसर्च है, ऐसी रिसर्च है जिसकी ना कोई रेलेवेंस है ना कोई वैल्यू है। 20 साल रिसर्च करके उसको पूछ लो मेथोडोलॉजी के बारे में पता ही नहीं है। थिंग्स आर सो वी आर इन अ सिचुएशन जहां पे पूरी रिवैम्पिंग की जरूरत है। लेकिन अगर आप महसूस करो तब ये वेरी कंफर्टेबल, मुझे नौकरी मिल गई, पैसे मिल रहे हैं, जिंदगी चल रही है, बस ठीक है। बट सच सेशंस आर वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट क्योंकि हम ये प्रॉब्लमेटाइज करते हैं, इनको प्रॉब्लमेटाइज करना जरूरी है इन चीजों को। बट आई एम वेरी ग्लैड दैट यू पीपल आस्क सच क्वेश्चंस। आई एम वेरी हैप्पी टू बी अ पार्ट ऑफ इट एंड थैंक यू कोमल जी फॉर गिविंग मी दिस अपॉर्चुनिटी।
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. There are a lot of more questions in the chat box, but because of paucity of time, with your permission, I think we could move to the closure stage. For that, I request Professor Dr. Komal Audich, our HOD and officiating dean, to propose a formal vote of thanks, please.
Thank you so much, Ashwati. I'm extremely grateful to Professor Rajesh Gill for taking out so much time and, satisfying all the queries also with so much patience. Law, when we study, it's all mechanical. So the way you have put the things today, I think it's another aspect of development of all the faculty members. You took us, on a beautiful journey. Like you in the beginning said that the law must be understood in social context. So when it was codified also, it was more on scientific basis only. So somewhere it was feminist jurisprudence which raised that it is symbolizing male-dominated society. So law, they were the ones who came forward to tell us that law also has masculine language. So how you started with that, and you touched every aspect where feminist jurisprudence has played an important, significant role in bringing the social change and somewhere being manifested in law also, whether it was restitution of conjugal rights, live-in relationship, women's reproductive rights, you touched medical terminal pregnancy act also, then adultery. But everywhere you said that's although the law was adapting itself to the issues raised by feminist jurisprudence and it was answering to that also, but it was still away from ground reality. And then you touched upon another aspect, that is child marriage. Then dowry, you mentioned that Dowry Prohibition Act is there, but still dowry is so prevalent. And in today's world also, when we used to think that earlier dowry was more prevalent, but now the daughter has become even more of a liability because the demands have increased. And Nargesh Mirza's case, service rule, Babita Punya, Mathura rape case, I think you went through all those important judgments, but every time you mention that even we touch upon these judgments to, glorify this thing that yes, the feminist jurisprudence is playing an important role and the judgments are also now more on equality, mentioning Article 14 and 15, but still you said certain judgments are gender biased. Although we have 2005 amendments in Hindu Succession Act, then there is Criminal Amendment Act, POCSO Act, sexual harassment, but the law, the interpretation is very, very important. How the interpretation, because the laws have been there for a very long time. But when a case comes up before the court, then only we realize that yes, this is the lacuna and we must now check it on the anvil of equality. So somewhere the mindset which you really put emphasis on, and you said constitution was always there, but Nargesh Mirza's came very late. Even sexual harassment of women at workplace, prevention, addresses, all this came in 2013. Although women had entered public domain long time ago. So I think the clear message which you gave today was beautiful, that as law teacher, we have the responsibility to see that law is not away from the reality. When we teach in the class, we just don't have to do it in a very stereotyped way to go through the bare acts and the cases. Somewhere we have to teach in the social context. It has to be related with the reality. So thank you so much. Like, we have been having many sessions, पर आज जो दिल से बात आपने कही है वो हमारे दिलों को ही छू गई है. So thank you so much. And I think to all the members, I will say, feminism isn't about making women stronger. They are already very strong. They are no less. They are already very strong. But somewhere it's about, we have to change how the world perceives that strength. And for that, even as law teachers, we have to play an important role. So thank you so much, ma'am, for giving us so much time and giving us another aspect of law, how we have to teach, how we have to perceive, and how even in our personal life, we have to somewhere change our mindset to give respect to the woman, what she deserves. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.